And from 1984, almost annually, the Indian History Congress passed stronger and stronger resolutions urging the government to protect Babri Masjid. And in 1991, Professor Sharma and not Ramvilas Sharma, sorry, Professor Sharma of Patna. Ramvilas Sharma was a long name. Ram Sharan Sharma, Professor R.S. Sharma. He was almost my teacher, although I never formally was a student. He and three other historians then issued a manifesto giving the history of the Babri Masjid and saying that this was a national issue and it should be protected and that it was a mosque and should remain a mosque. That pamphlet was distributed by People's Publishing House and translated in practically every language. So, as far as historians are concerned, they have a clean slate in the matter. Almost unanimously, with even some pro-BJP historians agreeing, resolutions were passed for the protection of the Babri Masjid. Even when votes was taken, it was near unanimity, 200 or 250 against one or two people. So as far as historians are concerned, their record is a straight one. It's quite clear that Babri Masjid had two inscriptions, not three. One was near the pulpit, as was usual, and the other was on the gate. The pulpit inscription was destroyed in 1930s in a local riot, but its stampage existed and it has been printed, and it was earlier also published because it was an inscription of Babur's time, 1528. And there was a longer inscription on the gate. In neither inscription was it said that that any temple was destroyed, because when Muslims built mosque on temple sites, they usually proclaim the fact, unfortunately. But in this case, there is not the slightest mention. Which is in fact, those who know the customs of religious epigraphy in India would say that this almost establishes that there was no known temple here. And Awadh was more or less Ayodhya, and or it was known as Awadh at that time. It was a cosmopolitan city, it was the headquarters of the province. So that a large Muslim community was there, so construction of a mosque was a normal thing. It was only much later that the tradition started that there was a temple here. This is about late 18th century. No Sanskrit text, nothing. And the Skanda Puran, which they cite, actually is a 16th or 17th century work. For instance, it describes Vrindavan. And Vrindavan really didn't have its temples until Akbar's reign. It describes Sitapur. Sitapur was a later name of the town. It was actually Chintapur. So, it's clear that it's a 17th century work. And it doesn't say really that the temple was destroyed here. It only says that there is a spot where Ram was born. And there was, in fact, if you look at district gazetteers, there was a temple, and which continued to exist later on, which claimed that it was built on Lord Rama's birthplace. This is quite a different temple, although in the neighborhood. And it was after that temple that this quarter came to be known as Ram Janasthan. And so the masjid also has Janamsthan Mosque. It has no evidence at all that it was ever a temple. As far as the archaeological survey is concerned, when they dug up actually, they came across a westward wall, which is usually there in a mosque, particularly one walled mosque of that time, and there was a mihrab in it. But they actually dismissed that. Mihrab is obvious because there is a walled-in space without a passage. So there is no such thing in a temple. But just because it was not arched, they said it could not be a Muslim mihrab. But in fact, even in Jaunpur nearby and in Delhi, many walled mosques, as can be seen from a Japanese work on it and photographs there, have unarched mihrabs. So, and then there were animal bones of large number on almost every. They confessed that they were found at every level, in almost every dig. And yet this was all disregarded by the Supreme Court and the High Court. High Court did not totally disregard it, but the Supreme Court apparently totally disregarded all this evidence. In fact, their major argument was that there was no positive proof that prayers were offered in the mosque in the Sultanate period, in the early Mughal period. Sorry. Now this is, of course, a statement which cannot be contested, but which has no basis. When a mosque is there and it is open and there is no statement about prayers not being performed there, it must be assumed that prayers were performed. There was not a single statement by anyone that prayers were not performed there. So, in fact, even the Allahabad High Court held that prayers were performed at that time, despite in the single judgment of Agarwal on which the joint judgment was based. And he conceded. So, this is a statement of the Supreme Court which has no basis. But whatever Supreme Court becomes the law of the land, more or less.